Welcome to Afterlife Glimpse. Today, NDE experience sent to the channel through email by Katherine. So here it is. I never thought I'd be sharing this story, but here I am, recounting the most incredible experience of my life. It all started with my damaged lungs, a result of years working around jet fuel and battling frequent bouts of pneumonia. My body's been through the ringer, and my immune system's always on high alert. That day, I was struggling to breathe as usual. My chest felt tight, and each breath was a battle. I've been down this road before, calling 911 more times than I can count. When my oxygen levels drop, my brain gets fuzzy, and I can't think straight. Should I call for help or drive myself to the hospital? It's always a toss-up. Suddenly, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't breathe. I mean, really couldn't breathe. My lungs just gave up. I knew I couldn't speak, and it was only a matter of time before I'd black out. My kids used to this drill by now. I managed to make a phone gesture, and they called 911. As they were talking to the operator, everything went dark. Before I lost consciousness, I remember falling to the floor. My body tried to get up, but my mind had already accepted what was happening. It was strange. I felt okay with dying. There was no fear, just this overwhelming sense of peace and pure love. It was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Then, I found myself in this pitch-black space. It was darker than any cave I'd ever been in, but I was still me, floating in this empty void. Suddenly, I started falling. It felt like I was plummeting through millions of miles of darkness towards this tiny speck of light. You know that tiny burst of energy it takes to form a thought? That's what this light reminded me of, like the spark of a synapse firing in your brain. When I hit that light, everything changed. I was catapulted backward, and from that tiny energy source, I watched the entire universe unfold before my eyes. It was like watching the most incredible documentary, but I was right there in the middle of it all. I saw everything that's ever happened since the Big Bang. Time itself seemed to dissolve. I realized it's just something we humans made up. What we perceive as time is really just a series of events. The universe formed in front of me like a cosmic paisley pattern. It looked like those fractal images you see in math books, but infinitely more complex and beautiful. I was floating in this dark space, looking down at our universe like it was sitting in a giant trash bag. Earth looked so small from up there, but somehow I could see everything. My house, the people inside, all from this unimaginable distance beyond the edge of the universe. Just when I thought things couldn't get any stranger, I noticed a figure in the distance. He moved towards me with an otherworldly grace, sliding up to my face in an instant. This being was the most beautiful thing I'd ever laid eyes on. The love and peace radiating from him were indescribable. It was like being wrapped in the warmest, softest blanket of pure emotion. I knew right away that this was God. He had long, wavy white hair that flowed past his shoulders, softer than anything I'd ever seen. His beard was just as impressive, reaching down to his chest. His skin had this amazing golden bronze color, almost metallic, like polished brass. He wore a flowing kaftan with intricate gold embroidery, and even though the fabric was thin and silky, I could tell he was built like a Greek god underneath. When I looked into his eyes, it was like the secrets of the universe were laid bare before me. The color of his eyes wasn't anything you'd find on Earth. It was beyond our spectrum. In that moment, I understood everything. All the knowledge of all time was right there, crystal clear. He asked me if I knew who he was, and I did. I felt so unworthy, so ashamed to be in his presence, but at the same time, I was overwhelmed by his love. I wanted nothing more than to lay at his feet like a child, clinging to his perfect form. Then he told me something that would change everything. You have 3 missions, then you can die. Before I could process what that meant, 2 more beings appeared out of nowhere. They were beautiful too, dressed similarly to God, but slightly less radiant. One had long, wavy blonde hair and seemed masculine, while the other had a shorter, wavy pageboy cut and felt more feminine. Their eyes were a soft beige color, like coffee with cream. These beings hugged me from either side and reassured me, saying they'd be with me. Then we shot backward through the universe at an unimaginable speed. As we neared Earth, they vanished from sight, but I could still feel their presence. To this day, I sense them around me, one behind me on each side. The masculine one seems particularly fond of me, while the feminine one feels like she's still in training. As we approached Earth, I found myself floating above Highway 18, watching an ambulance speed along. Suddenly, I was inside, on the ceiling. The beings gently dropped me back into my body, and I opened my eyes to find myself surrounded by paramedics. There was a tube up my nose and down into my chest, and a man was manually pumping air into my lungs. I grabbed his hand, startling him. Then I promptly threw up all over the paramedic on the other side of the gurney. Despite the chaos, I felt fine, except for the fact that my lungs weren't working on their own. This man quite literally held my life in his hands as he squeezed that bag, breathing for me. At the hospital, they gave me a shot, and eventually, my body started breathing on its own. I found out later that I hadn't been breathing for about 15 minutes. My neighbor, who'd heard about the incident on her scanner, had come over and was distraught. The sheriff and fire department had arrived, thinking I was already gone. My body was purple with black lips, cold and gray. They'd even called my parents to tell them I was likely dead. When I finally got out of the hospital and ran into some of the firefighters at the market, they couldn't believe I was walking around. They started calling me their miracle baby, convinced I should be dead. At first, I was angry about being back in my broken body, stuck on this difficult planet. I was frustrated that I hadn't been told what my 3 missions were. But then I realized something incredible. I now know what the future holds. I know that one day I'll die of a heart attack while shoveling snow on November 11th. It's a strange thing to know, but it's also oddly comforting. This experience completely changed how I view death. It's not something to fear. It's the most amazing thing that could happen to a person. When you die, you become perfect and all-knowing. You go to a place that's beyond anything we can imagine here on Earth. I used to be terrified of dying, but now I can't wait to go back. I look at elderly people who are ready to move on with a new understanding. If they knew what was waiting for them, they'd skip all the medical interventions and embrace the journey. Dying isn't really dying at all. You become a being of pure light, born into a better plane of existence. It's a place of boundless love where you can shape your own reality. Time doesn't exist there. When you're immortal and have forever, who cares what time it is? Sometimes I feel like I don't belong here anymore. I long to return to that place of peace and understanding. But I know I have a purpose here, even if I'm not sure what it is yet. I'm grateful for this second chance at life, but I'm also looking forward to the day when I can go back to that realm of pure love and light. This experience has taught me so much about life, death, and the nature of the universe. It's changed how I view everything around me. I see the world with new eyes now, appreciating the beauty and complexity of it all in a way I never could before. I often think about the beings I encountered, God and those 2 angels. Their presence was so comforting, so overwhelmingly loving. I wonder about the missions I'm supposed to complete. Are they big, world-changing tasks or small acts of kindness that ripple out in ways I can't see? Maybe I'm living them out without even realizing it. Every day, I'm reminded of how precious life is. I try to live with more compassion, more understanding. I know now that we're all connected in ways we can't even begin to comprehend. The universe is so much vaster and more intricate than we realize, and yet, somehow, we all play a part in its grand design. I've started paying more attention to the little things, the way sunlight filters through leaves, the laughter of children playing, the warmth of a hug from a loved one. These moments feel like tiny echoes of that all-encompassing love I experienced on the other side. Sometimes, when I'm alone and it's quiet, I swear I can still feel those 2 beings nearby. It's comforting to know they're watching over me, guiding me through whatever missions I'm meant to complete. I wonder about the feminine one, the one who seems reluctant to be here. What's her story? What is she learning from this experience? I've become more open to the mysteries of life since my near-death experience. I find myself drawn to stories of others who've had similar encounters. It's fascinating to see the common threads that run through all of these accounts. The feeling of peace, the overwhelming love, the sense of returning with a purpose. My relationship with my family has deepened too. My kid, who's seen me through so many health scares, has a strength and resilience that amazes me. We've had long talks about life, death, and what might come after. It's brought us closer, given us a shared perspective that not many families have. I still have my bad days, of course. My lungs aren't magically better, and I still struggle with breathing sometimes. But now, even on the toughest days, I have this inner peace to draw on. I know that whatever happens, it's all part of a bigger picture that I can't fully see or understand right now. I've started keeping a journal, trying to capture all the details of my experience before they fade. Sometimes, I worry that I'll forget something important, some crucial piece of knowledge that was revealed to me in those moments beyond our world. But then I remind myself that the most important things, the love, the peace, the sense of belonging, those are etched into my very being now. As I go about my days, I find myself looking at strangers differently. I wonder about their stories, their struggles, their own brushes with the divine. Are there others out there who've seen what I've seen? Who've felt that indescribable love and connection to something greater than ourselves? I try to share my story when I can, with people who seem open to hearing it. Some are skeptical, of course, and that's okay. I know how unbelievable it all sounds, but others listen with rapt attention, their eyes wide with wonder. I see something spark in them. Hope, maybe, or a newfound curiosity about what lies beyond this life. There are moments when the weight of knowing what I know feels heavy. How do you go about your normal life when you've glimpsed the secrets of the universe? How do you focus on mundane tasks when you know there's so much more out there? But then I remember what I saw. How every tiny part of the cosmos played its role in the grand tapestry of existence. Even the small, seemingly insignificant parts of life have their purpose. I find myself drawn to nature more than ever before. Sitting by the ocean or walking in the woods, I feel a connection to everything around me. The trees, the animals, the very air. It all pulses with the same energy I felt in that otherworldly realm. Sometimes, if I close my eyes and breathe deeply, when my lungs cooperate, I can almost transport myself back there. My perspective on time has shifted dramatically. Knowing that it's a human construct, that all of existence is really just a series of interconnected events, has changed how I approach each day. I try not to get too caught up in schedules and deadlines. Instead, I focus on being present in each moment, appreciating it for what it is. I've developed a new appreciation for science too. Watching documentaries about space and quantum physics, I see echoes of what I experienced. It's fascinating to watch humanity slowly unravel the mysteries of the universe, coming to understand truths that were revealed to me in an instant. There's a part of me that wishes I could go back, just for a moment. To look into those indescribable eyes again, to feel that all-encompassing love. But I know that's not how it works. I'm here for a reason, even if I don't fully understand what that reason is yet. As I wait for November 11th to roll around each year, I find myself both dreading and looking forward to it. It's a strange feeling, knowing the date of your own death, but it's also liberating in a way. It reminds me to make the most of each day, to love deeply, to forgive easily, to live fully. I often wonder about the moment when I'll forget it's November 11th and pick up that snow shovel. Will I realize what's happening? Will I feel fear or just a sense of coming home? I like to think I'll remember the peace I felt before, that I'll embrace the transition with open arms. Until then, I'll keep living, keep loving, keep trying to make sense of this incredible experience I've been given. I'll cherish every breath, even the difficult ones, knowing that each one brings me closer to understanding my purpose here. And when the time comes, when I finally complete whatever missions I've been sent back to do, I know I'll be ready. Ready to return to that place of pure love and light, to reunite with the divine presence I encountered, to become once again a part of that cosmic dance that connects us all. Until then, I'll keep sharing my story, hoping that it brings comfort, hope, and a sense of wonder to those who hear it. Because if there's one thing I know for certain, it's that there's so much more to our existence than what we can see and touch in this physical world. We are all part of something greater, something more beautiful and complex than we could ever imagine. And knowing that, feeling that deep in my soul, makes every day on this earth a gift beyond measure.